One of the Disney Plus launch shows was Joe Quesada's Storyboards. It's a kind of talk show format, very similar to Anthony Bourdain. He goes to different places, he talks to people, kind of immerses in Marvel and what it means to them. Well, the show is still happening, although it was kind of long delayed. It was originally supposed to be out, about 9 months ago, maybe a little less than that. And so now it's finally coming out this week, but it's going to be coming out on Marvel's YouTube channel, not on Disney Plus. What does this mean? Does it matter? People will speculate, but I'm more interested in talking about kind of this show in general, and is it something people want? Hey everybody, this is Perch. I'm quite confident this story will spawn quite a number of Joe Quesada's stock continues to fall at Marvel, and maybe it will, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who knows? We haven't heard much from kind of the relationship between Feige and Quesada and the various executives at Marvel since Feige took command. And I mean, in general, Marvel's leadership structure is confusing right now between San Amanat and Feige and Quesada and Perlmutter, and just the various names are kind of all over the place. And it feels, if you've been in a corporation for any length of time, right about now, maybe a few months before, you start to contemplate, hey, it seems like there's too many managers, or a reshuffling, a restructuring is happening, and I expect it will. I mean, it just the management structure of Marvel seems both bloated and odd, and on top of that, it doesn't fit with Disney's other units and just how they normally assemble things. So maybe they leave it alone, or maybe they try and bring it into house. It's hard to say. Again, we can speculate on what's going on, but I think change has to come. I mean, you look at this and it's like, this doesn't make sense on paper. And if I was in a corporation, I wouldn't want to go before a management team and kind of lay out this org and have to explain it. And I think that's typically, if you've worked in any kind of big company, you've been in management, you've been around management, if you present to them things they can't easily explain, those things tend to die. That's just how it works. But there's this show here, Storyboards, and the initial pitch was like a lot of pitches. When Anthony Bourdain did his Parts Unknown show and other things, where he would basically go and he would visit different, go to a locale that was interesting from a filming perspective. He'd talk to people about kind of local cuisine or what's going on with the culture, and it was kind of a conversation. Bourdain was a good host. He was a good narrator. He fit that role very, very well. He was interesting to listen to, and even though, in theory he's got guests, you really wanted to kind of show up to see what his perspective was on things. That's why it tended to work, and because it worked and got solid ratings, a number of other shows were spawned trying to do the same thing. Because if you're a production crew, it's easy to it's cheap and easy to do that show. You have to worry about your host flying first class or business, but hey, frequent flyers and all the rest, it works. And so we saw a number of these. You saw the Travel Channel. You saw a bunch of different places all kind of do this same show. Well, Quesada was, hey, it's a show for Disney Plus, and he's going to set people up and talk to them about kind of comics and Marvel and creating things. And it was it seemed like a logical Disney Plus show. Now, it had some things against it, and I don't remember if this was the original plan, but these shows are kind of 10 to 15 minutes, and that's not kind of ideal for what Disney Plus has. Disney Plus also, kind of by combination of rushing it out and also the shutdown, now has kind of an abundance of reality shows, and just like more than they kind of know what to do with. There's too many. The show is turning less about entertainment and more about, hey, we've got a back catalog and we've got these interview kind of reality making of kind of shows. So that's Netflix continues to hammer it. But basically, Quesada had a number of different guests lined up. Hugh Jackman, of course, who played Wolverine, Natalia Cordova Buckley, Christian Borle, Johnny Weir, Margaret Stoll, Robert Lopez, and there's a handful of others. So actor comedian Sashir Zamata, Gillian Jacobs, Mountaineer, corporate speaker Ed Viesters. I don't get that one, but okay. And Teen Vogue's executive editor Samita Makopadhyay. I apologize. I'm not making fun of your name. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's not an excuse, but there you go. Anyway, so these storylines are. It really rests on one thing: is Joe Quesada interesting as an interviewer? You've seen his drink and draw shows, or maybe you haven't. He's done several. In terms of a thing landing for comics, if you're a big comic fan, most of the names I read to you probably mean very little to nothing, and that's probably a problem. Is seeing that it's Marvel Storyboards. It did go out and get a sponsor in the form of State Farm to kind of promote it on YouTube, but it increasingly just feels like a strange thing. What was in theory supposed to be, maybe Quesada talking to big kind of people, either actors who played Marvel characters or creators who've worked in the world of Marvel, kind of flesh out that world and tell stories, makes sense. But now with this audience and cast, it's a little stranger. The time. I mean, part of what made Parts Unknown work is that it was sandwiched within a good half hour, or I think even an hour in some cases. But it was really kind of leaned into locales and everything else, and so we've got this. So long delayed, finally coming out, questionable guest list. We still don't know how Quesada is as an interviewer. Can he carry? He only has to carry 10 minutes with a guest. It's just not very long. The problem is these things are, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I went to YouTube. It feels like a web short, not like an episode, not like something that really you can kind of sink your teeth into as a show. But anyway, so that's the change that's happening on Marvel's side. I think Marvel is struggling on Disney Plus overall. I don't think they know really what to do with it. I think that they just haven't, for whatever reason, the content just isn't coming to Disney Plus in any kind of reasonable way, and it's. I mean, in theory, it should be a slam dunk. You can animate stuff. Hell, I think even if you put up digital comics under the Disney Plus umbrella as something, when you subscribe, you get some allotment of digital comics, then you at least encourage some subscriptions and some spread on mobile and tablet devices. You'd get that, and you could do some crazy. I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of. We've seen in other regions, I think Europe has done this, where you have an Apple TV app and you can have comics in there and they're running on your TV, and it's not the best UI or way to read a comic, but it's there. I think Disney Plus badly needs content. So if you just took, I don't know, pick your poison, take Absolute Carnage from last year, go panel by panel, hire some intern to carve it up, put it on your TV. Wouldn't be great. Like, I'm sure there's a ton of collectors hearing this right now. They're just cringing right now, but I mean, you need something. Right now, that Marvel whole bucket is got some, a handful of very, very weird reality shows that aren't great, and then old cartoons and the movies. It's all right. It's just, you gotta move it along a little bit. And I think Joe Quesada interviewing comedians probably doesn't do the trick. But I mean, invariably, we've got to get the CB Cebulski cooking show. Come on, that's just sitting right there. I mean, surely that's been pitched. I've got to believe. Anyway, what do you think? Would you watch this show? If not, what are you expecting out of Disney Plus for Marvel? What would you expect to see there? I would say another thing. I mean, it's far from perfect, but the DC offerings on HBO and kind of in general seem like they've got that far more buttoned up. I don't know. It's still not perfect. It's just, I don't know. You got Doom Patrol there. I wasn't. Titans was all right. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like they've got things going on a little bit better. Not sure why. Marvel in relation with Disney and the rest should be great at this. But I don't know. Would you watch the show? What do you think? Leave your comments below. Like, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, would really appreciate that. Follow me on the pillars of social media. And thanks for listening.